way to change us is to give us the worst possible assignment.
Ouch.
Because if we pick one, we're going to pick the easier one.
Right.
So this is a book about the worst possible assignment. Now Jonah represents the Jewish people, but he represents human nature, always looking for something that makes him look good or looks okay in the eyes of people or is acceptable. So God decided sovereignly to give this assignment. It has nothing to do with Jonah being special or the one called out or an honoring of Jonah's life or an important assignment for Jonah did not take this as an assignment. He just was floored. How could God do this? Have you ever had a difficult assignment? One you didn't sign up for? Might be your marriage. It could be many things. It could be the death of a person. And I love the way God gives assignments. He doesn't say, now, Jonah, come up here. I'd like to talk to you. He says, up! Boy, is that bad news. That is movement. That is, something is going to be required. Something is going to happen. So God uses shock methodology. Go to Nineveh, the great city, and inform them that their wickedness has become known to me. Now, there's part of this assignment that Jonah likes because he agrees that their wickedness is the worst in the world. And the number one enemy of the Jewish people was the Assyrian Empire. And Nineveh was the capital. So he was to go to the capital of their number one enemy, the greatest threat to their survival, the awfulest place on earth. These are very violent, raging people who do terrible things. And of course, the Jews didn't think they did bad things at all. We have this. Well, I'm in charge, so I didn't do anything bad. I'm working for God. But anyway, here's God giving out these words. So in a way, Jonah says, "Wow, God sees their wickedness." So he kind of said, God's got that figured out. They are the wickedest. He knows that. But going to Nineveh? And those of you who don't know, this ministry began in Nineveh in Iraq in 1976. I went to Nineveh. So, Jonah decided to run away from the Lord and to go to Tarshish, which is in the opposite direction towards Spain. Have any of you ever run away from the Lord? He went down to Joppa and found a ship bound for Tarshish. He paid his fare and he went aboard to go with them to Tarshish to get away from Yahweh. Have you ever tried to get away from God? I think you kid yourself. I don't think you're trying to get away from God. You don't think so. I say, I'm going to get away from God. I'm not going to pay any attention to him. I don't like this assignment. No, I think we say, God, that's too hard, but we continue to talk to him, don't we? We don't even have the guts to go to Tarshish. We just continue to talk to him. But Jonah decided to eliminate God's voice from his life. Kind of break a relationship that you can't break. I mean, it's kind of hard. unleashed a violent wind on the sea, and there was such a great storm at sea that the ship threatened to break up, and the sailors took fright, and each of them called on his own god. And to lighten the ship, they threw the cargo overboard. Jonah, however, had gone below and lain down in the hold and fallen fast asleep. Very peaceful. The boatswain came upon him and said, "What do you mean by sleeping? Get up, call on your God." It's exactly what Jonah didn't want to do, did he? He'd gotten on that boat to not have to talk to God, and now suddenly he has to call upon his God. Perhaps he will spare us a thought and not leave us to die. Then they said to each other, "Come on, let us draw lots to find out who is responsible for bringing this evil on us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell to Jonah. They found out that Jonah had caused the problem. Then they said to him, "Tell us, what is your business? Where do you come from? What is your country? What is your nationality?" He replied, "I'm a Hebrew, and I worship Yahweh, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land." The sailors were seized with terror at this and said, "What have you done?" They knew that he was trying to escape from Yahweh because he had told them so. They then said, "What are we going to do with you to make the sea grow calm for us?" For the sea was growing rougher and rougher. Jonah replied, "Take me and throw me into the sea, and then it will grow calm for you." In other words, it's easier to be thrown in the sea than it is to go to Nineveh. And besides, you could go thrown in the sea, you get to die, which means you go into sleep or whatever. This is it's okay. I'm just gonna go into the sea. He didn't tell him what he'd done. He didn't tell him about Nineveh. "For I can see it is my fault this violent storm has happened to you." The sailors rowed hard in an effort to reach the shore, but in vain, since the sea grew rougher for them. So they didn't immediately want to do it. They then called on Yahweh. So suddenly these sailors, the people in the boat, suddenly began to pray to Yahweh. "Do not let us perish for taking this man's life. Do not hold us guilty of innocent blood. For you, Yahweh, have acted as you have thought right." And taking hold of Jonah, they threw him into the sea, and the sea grew calm again. At this, the men were seized with dread of Yahweh. They offered a sacrifice to Yahweh and made vows. There's one thing that could be said here, isn't there? Jonah admitted it was his fault. How long does that take?
Too long.
So he took sole responsibility that he was to blame. So what were the results of that decision he made to tell him the truth?
Turned to God.
They turned to this God. Jonah did not say to the sailors, "Well, you just need to pray," did he? He owned the responsibility to confess. Sort of. He didn't confess what the assignment really was. He didn't really give them the total picture. But he took the responsibility. Now, Yahweh had arranged that a great fish should be there to swallow Jonah.